Jeremy, do you want to intro this since you're the one that you said you're steering the ship, so you can go ahead.
I'm steering the it's more like I'm unsteering the ship.
Welcome to. Hold on.
Well,
I was just gonna say, since you're steering the ship, you can also like lead us out of the harbor or something like that.
I'm gonna lead us so far.
You can break the bottle over the bow and lead us out.
Oh, I already did that. I did that before we started.
Perfect. Take it away.
All right. Welcome to Three Brothers Talking 3BT. I'm your host this week, Jeremy Appelt.
This is awkward. I'm Andrew.
Well, you guys have to jump in too.
And I'm David. We didn't know what order to go in because we don't really do it that way. You started with like
do it in reverse.
You kind of started with like an NPR voice at first, but then you went to like an announcer voice. It's kind of you went back and forth.
That's my ESPN.
We tried Jeremy
ESPN
out.
PR verse.
We tried Jeremy out at the intros. I'm not sure how we feel about it, but
You don't know what ghetto style means right now.
Well, we'll get reviews, so you should rate us, review us, 5 stars. Put in your comments, Jeremy to host more episodes.
Exactly. Maybe we'll give Andrew a shot at it. Maybe next. We'll see how that goes.
Maybe. I got the best beard, so that's why I got to do this episode.
Jeremy's beard is back.
Yeah,
it's back. It's fierce.
Getting ready for the winter. Getting ready for
weather's starting to change here. It's nice. So yeah, you gotta layer up.
You went into quarantine. You went into quarantine with a beard, probably because it was still kind of the winter. And here we are, still in it, getting ready probably for the next round. And you got the beard back.
Yeah,
I don't think we'll ever get out of it.
Yes.
In all honesty, how's everybody doing today?
Dude, doing great.
Doing great. Yeah. Andrew, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I feel like I've been gone for a while from you guys. So it's good to talk. We've been up back and forth to Cleveland and visiting family and busy with soccer season and all that going on. So busy time, but we're doing well.
We should do a discussion on how the rules have changed across sports right now. Like I went to a high school football game and it was nuts how they've changed things.
You got into one? Who'd you go to?
Yeah, Nathan. So Face Brothers are freshmen at Perrickville Christian, and they had the games at Fisher Catholic, who plays at Lancaster Stadium.
Yeah.
So they could get more fans in. So we went Friday night, and Micah loved football, which meant he made to play at this monster trucks and almost fall off the bleachers.
Well,
he did a good job. He enjoyed it. We had a good time. So. Good to go.
Yeah. Glad we can go to high school football since we can't, enjoy
Central's still doing
or, NFL.
Oh, I am definitely enjoying the NFL though. Just that it's
but I'm saying we can't go.
Oh,
I love it.
And I'm finally
Bears and stuff are doing sport or doing people in the stands. I think
Cleveland's had people in the stands both weeks. I think.
Yeah, but those are like very limited, and the fact that you have to be a season ticket holder and all that to have a shot.
Almost like people should be able to buy tickets if they want to go to something.
Even our own Columbus Crew has had like I think 3,000 or 4,000 people in the stands.
Yeah,
now.
They're starting.
But I'm just happy I can enjoy football this year because my team is probably not going to be the worst team again. So that's good news.
The Bears are 2-0.
Yeah.
So Trubisky the first week, by the way, the first 3 quarters, he had the second lowest QBR, and the last quarter had the second highest QBR.
It's not how you start, it's how you finish.
It's how you finish.
And he's got 2 wins, so you can't complain.
Got 2 wins. Yeah. I'll take it. But so any news in the brothers fronts this week? No new pregnancies, I know, but any news with anybody else?
I became a pastor this week, so that's cool.
Wow, that was so humble the way you said that.
Well, I think that's what you were fishing for when you said
you became
fishing.
What do you mean that was humble?
Yeah,
I literally just said the words.
I don't know what to say. Congratulations.
Yeah. David is officially an elder, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So tell us about
Elder
that.
Dave.
We should have introduced like doctrine and devotion and said like And then I could have gone, I'm David Appelt.
Elder in training or something.
Maranatha
And then
Community
Except me
Church.
and Jeremy don't have titles, so yeah.
Member at Maranatha Community Church. in
I mean,
Pickerington,
I'm a
Ohio.
hospitality lead, so I could say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hospitality lead.
Jeremy's kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal. Arguably,
I'm like,
bigger
I'm in
than
the
the elder.
background. I live my life in the background, in the shadows, like
He's-
Batman.
He's a hospitable man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't tell you about that. Well, it was a lot of fun. Year and a half.
We should do a little. Just get a little bit about how that process went.
Yeah, David, what's the process like?
Yeah.
Well, so for me, it was, I don't know, for Rachel and I going through it is a little different just because like when we came to Maranatha, that was like what we wanted to do. Because we also, I wanted to potentially join like staff and everything right away there. That wasn't really what God had for us and everything. But so really we've been there for like 2 years now, and we came there and I was telling at the planting pastor, Jeff, I was telling him like, hey, we're coming here because we love the theology of this church, the mission of this church, and it's also a church plant, and we want to I want to plant a church in the future. So we've been talking about it since we got there, but then like a year and a half ago, that like became more of a formal process to become on the path to eldership. And then maybe like halfway through that time, like, I don't know, what is that? 9 months from now, 9 months in the past, that became like, very official of like, hey, we're really, praying about this. We're really talking about this. Other leadership of the church talking about this, and had packets to fill out and questions about theology to answer, wherein I pretty much just like copied, pasted from the London Baptist Confession. Because
cheater.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we have
What
it.
kind of questions?
Questions about everything. Questions about everything from what is justification to what's the gospel to
You get into every detail, Jeremy.
I want to go through every question.
It was a long.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is like it was a long questionnaire, but I honestly could have kept doing it because it's just fun for me. I like writing and I like thinking about those things. Obviously, that's why we have a podcast. But so it kind of made me think like, man, if I ever go to seminary, that'll be a whole lot of fun in some ways. But it was everything from that also to like, what's your views on, roles of men and women in the church, roles of men and women in the home, things like that. So all across the board.
So yeah, this is just purely me thinking off the cuff here. So as far as fleshing out all of those points and everything down this path, was there ever a point where there was like you had to discuss with our lead pastor's name is Jeff, so if I call Jeff, that we're talking about
heretofore named as Jeff.
Yeah. So where you guys had you had to flesh out any of those subtle differences between Maranatha and what you had, or was there ever any type of discussion around that, or was everything just
I didn't have any during that process, because kind of right when we got either before we got to Maranatha or right when we got there, I had already had a lot of discussions with Jeff where
theologically
where I thought maybe there was like some things we had to work through. Yeah. Because I didn't want to join the church. I didn't want to join the church if like I guess I should say I wanted to know what all of the theology of the church was before I joined it. So
I was like, it's not a problem if you don't agree. That's sort of like, I didn't want to call it out of like, you made sure, you aligned on every single thing as if like, if you go and attend a church that, you have certain things that, well, there's still want that to be like a necessary
like
problem.
infant baptism.
Well, that's a pretty big one.
thing, but yeah. Well, I'm saying there can be subtle differences.
There's still, there's still differences among me and two other guys also got installed as elders who are awesome guys. And I'm super excited to be the first time that I'm ever in the role to be serving with those guys is a huge blessing. because all three of those guys, Jeff included, are amazing men. So,
So have you guys?
but even among us, like we have some of those subtle differences about certain real, like whether it's even down to, exactly how we would all explain like eschatology or something. There's going to be minor differences. But we are all within the larger stream of being a Reformed Baptist and everything. And so, but yeah, like, one of the first things I talked to Jeff about whenever we were talking to Maranatha was like, I think it was like, we talked about communion and exactly how we did it. And then I forget what the other one was talking through.
Probably gifts.
The gifts. Yeah. The miraculous gifts, whether it was speaking in tongues or things like that.
Did you start speaking in tongues?
Which are probably more the bigger, I guess more the bigger things to flesh out.
Yeah, those are the bigger things to flesh out. And what I realized as we talked about those is that like there were very minor differences in thought, but like practically when it came down to it,
you end up largely at the same place.
Yeah. Like what I realized was where we were at before, it felt like everyone there, I still love everyone who's at the church that I grew up in and everything. And they've probably taught me more than anyone else has about the Christian life, about pastoring even. I mean, that was 20 some years. So like an amazing amount of teaching there.
You're talking about the previous.
Yeah. But the only difference is just like that it felt like there would be friction there, not because anyone was bad or evil or messed up, but there would just be friction because some of those differences in theology and stuff were bigger. So it was, So it was never, and like I said, again, everyone at my old church who, I know that there's people that still listen to this podcast. And I'm grateful for that. Because like I said, some of the best people I've ever met in my life still go, like I met them there and they're still there. And like I said, again, I'd reiterate it over and over again. Like the pastors there and stuff, so many of them taught me probably much more about pastoring than I'll ever learn the rest of my life. Came from those guys.
Well, through your formative years, they were there for a lot of the questions that we all had.
Well, and I saw them struggle, and like I saw them pastor through like just tough times, but like keep on doing it. So
So walk us through the moment that you were handed something. What did you think you were being handed?
I'm walking into this, and I just heard that you got a pretty cool gift. So I want to hear
what'd you
about
get,
this.
Dave?
It's actually like it's right over there, but I'm kind of like tied into the recording thing, so I can't put up. But so Jeff was like doing this, and he says like it's very customary to give guys a shepherd's crook whenever they're installed as an elder because they're shepherds of the church. And he said, but I think I thought of something a little bit cooler. And so he just goes, so I bought them all swords. And so he hands us each a sword.
Home defense.
Like a legit sword.
I mean, it's a legitimate sword that is not sharp. So kind of not
sharpened sword. But
But
will you dress up in Halloween as a knight? That's the real question.
No, because Halloween's canceled this year. So also
let's say because of the devil. But
as an elder, I can't celebrate Halloween, right?
There you go. That's the real reason.
No
candy for Dave.
But on the sword,
that's
Jeff.
Sarcasm.
Yeah, that was can I still be sarcastic now that I'm an
I just
elder?
wanted to clarify, just to make sure.
David, it goes against all the qualifications of 1 Timothy.
You have a lot, almost 100% of our base is not elders. So, just so we know.
No, but on the sword, Jeff had inscribed Colossians 1:28-29. And he said, he is the one that we proclaim, admonishing and teaching everyone with all wisdom, so that we may present everyone fully mature in Christ. To this end, I strenuously contend with all the energy Christ so powerfully works within me. So that's on the unsharpened blade of the sword. And the best part was that one of the elders, the new elders, AJ, he's walking back, sword in hand. We're walking off the stage, getting ready for the benediction. and his son Grayson, who I think is 4,
He's 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
He just goes, "Dad, you got a sword?"
It was hilarious.
It was great.
I was like, that is
He's like,
great.
awesome.
Fantastic.
Those kids,
Yeah.
they're some good boys.
Did
They
it come,
do.
did
Deacon
it
and
come with
Micah
a
having
sheath,
fun.
or is it just?
It's a
Well,
sheath.
yeah, you have
Yeah.
to sheath the sword.
Mm.
It's a safety hazard, Andrew.
Well, I didn't know like if
Sheaths.
it's totally unsharpened, then like you're not
yeah.
going to do that much damage.
How sharp
might-
is
I
it?
mean,
Have
I
you tried
might-
to cut anything?
No, it literally is not sharp at all.
Yeah.
Have you done karate in the garage
But
yet?
I'm trying to figure out where to hang it because I don't think Rachel will go for that being like right in the front
Right
of our
above
house.
the bed. Where
Right.
else do you put it?
I've got windows above our bed, man.
David, the gun should go directly above the bed.
Well, that's a gun.
Or the
this
sword.
is a sword.
Yeah, you do have.
Well, it's
that's the
you don't
type
have a
of
gun
thing-
yet.
that's
They
the
didn't
type
give
of
us
thing
that,
You do
yeah.
need. Yeah, you do need proper display of this
Well,
thing
I've-
in your home.
Here in my office,
Well-
I've got these 2 bookshelves that I built, and I'm thinking I can fit the sword either above them or like hanging on the wall next to them.
You could put on the side next to it.
Well, I need to do
Man.
that. I also need to hang up my guitars in here on the wall. But
You do.
I think it should go
You
like
need
on
to.
your mantle.
I've got a
Get rid of
It
mantle.
would look good above the
Yeah,
mantle,
get rid of
especially if you
all-
got a second
all of
sword and they
Rachel's
cross.
decor items that she
She's-
had.
she's
Because
got things
they
that
should
she,
be
like-
replaced by the sword.
Exactly. She's got things that she like painted by hand that are really
Yeah.
beautiful, and I can just take those down
I'm
and put a
sorry.
sword
This is
there.
a weapon.
Mhm.
You need to be able to get to the sword if there's somebody who breaks into your house. So
Yeah.
there you go.
So
Quick access.
that's what happened. That's what happened for me this week, and it's cool. It's in many ways, it's like I guess like a long time coming. But
I don't know if you want to do now,
I don't
but
know.
I was like, I think it'd be interesting to like talk about what your role. I guess you guys are kind of still fleshing this out, but what that actually means day by
Yeah.
day.
yeah.
Well, I think we could do an episode. I was going to talk
Yeah.
about maybe not this one, but sometime going through the qualifications of elders and what we
Yeah.
think about that.
Yeah.
Just
Like
And,
how,
like,
old,
then we
how
can
old
use
they
around
have
the
to
church.
be.
Yeah, and maybe we give David a little bit
That's
of
what
time.
I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
So,
And
David,
maybe give David a little bit of time to like get into it, so you can talk about how
Yeah.
we do it. Because obviously, for those of you that don't know, like this is a new thing for our church, and the fact that we only had one elder previously, and now we have an elder team,
Yeah.
where David, along with 2 other guys, are being added into this church leadership. So things are getting a lot of things are getting fleshed out now
Yeah.
for how that's going to function. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So
I would like to make a point. I think that, well, that's the thing, going back, I think it's something that a growing church needs elders and deacons to
Agreed.
continue to grow and be
Yeah,
trained men.
we added a deacon yesterday too.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and that's what, so even going back to our old church, they added an elder and 2 deacons last week,
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
which is exciting because
Yeah.
I think that's something that we should be encouraging all churches to be
That
encouraging
is good.
men,
It's-
especially
It's
teaching.
good news. It is good news when
Yeah.
faithful men step into the office. That is good news for the world.
Right.
Yeah. Especially
Good news.
especially the
Good
one.
news when you get swords.
Yeah, that's right. Especially the man that stepped into it at our old church because he's an awesome guy as well. So,
He is. Good guy.
But
So
Yeah.
what else are we talking about tonight? We just got on the elder. tangent.
Jeremy's in
David,
charge.
so wait, how old do you have to be an elder?
We're not-
I guess is a real question.
we're not-
Because
that
I was
was-
told,
yeah, we had a funny. I'm just gonna say it really quickly. We had a funny visitor that
said you were young.
just said that me and the other guys were not old and didn't appear old enough to be elders. The guy's not a part of our church. He just was visiting. It was weird, but it was kind of
Did
funny.
he actually come up to you?
No, he came up to. He
He came up
told
to
somebody
Ken.
else that. He told somebody else that.
Ah,
But
Yeah.
it was
Super
honestly just
funny.
kind of funny.
yeah.
Stuff like
I'm just
that.
glad I didn't see your
could not
tattoo,
be
David.
there. I could not be there to witness this weekend because we had to go visit Kaylee's family up in Cleveland.
Yeah.
So I missed this whole thing with
Yeah.
service.
I just
But
wish you would have busted out your tattoo on top.
Yeah,
of the stage.
that would have been probably even more of a struggle. But
that would have been worse.
yeah,
Can elders have tattoos?
I hope so.
I think that's a
Okay.
hot button issue.
You remember the episode? Where we talked about tattoos? And then we talked about, I forget what else we talked about, but it was really good. And then I didn't record any of it. You remember that?
We did that a few times.
Yeah.
There's been a few lost
The
episodes.
listeners have been spared of discussing my tattoos. Yeah. But that's what my wife goes through all the time. Because that's like, if I'm not talking about music, tattoos, for a holy reason, I'll say theology. Music, tattoo, theology, sports, or maybe like
beer.
Like beer, and then like maybe like hunt like firearms and things like that, or other random interests I pick up. Like I don't know what else I'm talking about. So she gets tired of me talking about tattoos. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she supports them, or that's stupid. She doesn't like support them. It's not like a cause. She even though
she supports the cause.
She's cool with them, but she still gets tired because I'll talk about them all the time. And she's like, just go get it. Like, stop talking about it and go get it. I'm like, okay, that's
like
fair.
a gun.
So, yeah.
Wow.
With sport,
that's really all I have planned.
With sports and stuff, it's just like, just stop talking about it. I don't care. But
yeah, the NFL is back.
NFL
How's everybody feeling
back.
about that?
Feels good.
College football is kind of back. I mean, the Buckeyes come back.
This is the first week of the in SEC and Big 12 back this week.
Honestly, I do not care until the Buckeyes play.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch. Mike and I have been outside.
We do have them back.
We have them back.
As well.
They'll come back right before my birthday.
Yeah.
And so that's good news. But
we looked at the schedule and like we're planning Lincoln's second birthday, and that weekend is going to be now just announced Ohio State versus Penn State. So that should be
stay up late watching the game.
That should be a primetime game for Lincoln's birthday. It's going to be awesome. He'll be 2. Be cool.
All right.
Yeah.
The other topic. Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, go ahead.
I'm
passing the mic.
transferred into hosting. The other topic that we were going to talk about for this episode was probably a quicker one, but hopefully an encouraging one, is what you do with just being spiritually dry. Because everyone goes through moments of life, if not, even if it's sometimes it's months and it's years, sometimes
it can be years,
right? Of feeling spiritually dry. And I as a pastor, even I go. I have to say that.
I was about ready to hang up on you.
Yeah. No, that's the reality though, right? Like everybody goes through these things, and sometimes you go through sometimes you go through a time where it's like distinctly negative and tough. Sometimes you go through a period that's just really dry. And that's kind of the two ways that depression can work, either in terms of lots of negative emotions or in terms of like getting your emotions just kind of sapped up and you don't have any. Which I don't think
numb.
Yeah, like being numb. Sapped up is not a word. Numb, yeah. And I think spiritually it can be the same way, right? You can go through seasons where you have negative spiritual battles that you're fighting, or just moments and seasons where you feel numb spiritually. So whenever that's going on, how do you guys think about that? What do you guys do? What do you think? Do you have the cure all? Do you have like the 1-minute cure for people?
Nah, I wish I did. I don't know. I think that's something like, David, I know all three of us we've talked about. I think there's certain things you lean into, and there's also some things that you seem to say, right now I'm not okay. And being okay with not being okay. I know that's something going through and talking to other people, sitting there saying, God loves this version of you right now. He doesn't want the you that has it all together. There's a point where you're like, I need to kind of press into the common grace elements of church and prayer and other people and reading.
Yeah.
But also the other parts of your personality that God's created you to be. It's like, okay, I'm a better man when I work out, eat better.
Yeah, he is.
Try to get sleep. of which I'm not very good at those three right now. But I mean, I'm riding my bike every night with Micah, which is kind of the same.
There you go.
But leaning in to how God's made you, and also just being real and being open and saying, "Hey, I need help too." I think that's something that, especially as a dude, especially as someone who for years was kind of a avid, and I was an athlete, but I worked out pretty hard. You have the persona of I can handle this.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I can't handle everything. And then you get married and it's like, okay, I really can't handle everything. But letting someone else in, especially like a spouse, and saying, hey, right now, I just need to work out, or I need to wake up early. That's something I've been doing lately, is like trying to wake up early to read, because I'm finding I'm not working towards the things God's calling me to do, because it's just hard.
Yeah.
So those kind of things of leaning in, but also just finding time to unplug from some things. Like, hey, you don't have to do everything. Sometimes like, I need to sleep in today, or I need to go to bed early, or I just need a nap this afternoon, or fill in the blank. Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm learning, I guess, if that makes sense. If any of that makes sense, it's kind of all over the place.
Well, I think that hits on a big, you kind of like stumbled into kind of my point was important to balance now that you have a partner with your spouse that should be invested in your growth as well. And when like being open and communicating as far as both of your guys, like where you guys are at spiritually, and also like both of you guys being able to read how you guys are feeling as well, just in general, I think is important, because then I think too, part of it is like nobody, it's not like I get up one day and it's just like a drastic choosing to not invest in time, or choosing to, just dive into this season of dryness or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's
I'd like to go spiritually numb.
But it's like,
like to be
it's a
today.
subtle thing where like you let one thing slip one day, and then it's a drastic thing where like maybe you don't invest quite as much time. Maybe your day's getting filled up a little bit more every single day. And if you're not tuned in with your spouse, and if you're not checking in with each other, then as far as that encouragement that like, and that support that Jeremy's talking about there, of like knowing that like I need to say, and like I need her support to be like, hey, here's where I need you to kind of push me a little bit. And I think that's important too. And also I think the other part is there's times where, especially me, I struggle to really dive in, and like there's been times where I struggle to read. It's not reading scripture, but like reading beyond that. But and through those times, I realized that if I'm investing more and I'm spending additional time in the Word itself, and if I'm spending additional time in my prayer life and investigating that, then it only encourages me further to get that little bit further in that avenue of where, I might have put down a book for a while that I really wanted to flesh out theologically or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of like is in a balance where if one avenue isn't working, then I realize that I need to push forward in another avenue.
Yeah.
And one thing I know, David, I talked about is what you talk about reading is also reading things and enjoying things that aren't necessarily only in one vein. As far as sports or fictional books or whatever.
Yeah. Sometimes a spiritual dryness is also like you're just dry in general in life because you're tired and stuff. And so you need to rest, and you need to know what will actually like recharge your battery, so to speak. And it's good to enjoy those things. It's easy to get into a feeling where all right, if I'm spiritually dry, what I need to do is like fill 24/7. I need to be listening to sermons, listening to praise music. Like in reality, sometimes what we need is some time enjoying whatever that gift is that God. I mean, there's something really good about how the Puritans or how Reformed tradition talks about common grace, like the common gifts that God gives. And these are things all around us in creation. And those things, like whether it's, I mean, for me, even something like taking a longer drive, listening to some music, like windows rolled down, whether it's like the other day, I just went and played golf by myself, or, reading, or
burpees.
What'd you say?
Burpees.
Doing burpees. I don't know if that qualifies.
I'm just kidding.
Or just like going on a walk.
Going to that. Yeah. Well, like anything that like connects with you and like gives you that rest. So like there's objective things that God has given all people, that are means by which we need to lean into. Like Jeremy talked about, we need to lean into the church. We need to lean into them in the word. We need to be reading it. We need to be praying. We need to be among God's people. But there's also, like, God has given us each different personalities that enjoy his different common gifts that he's given to humans. And it's good to lean into those as well.
Yeah.
To make sure, because I know for me, I can get into a thing that's like all work and no play. It's just like the mentality I can get into. And so you need those things, and you need a spouse, to Andrew's point. Sometimes I need my wife to tell me, like, you need to take time off, or like, hey, you're getting this or that. I think, you need to watch out for that. But
yeah.
How do you guys think?
And a spouse that you can bounce things off of, as far as,
Yep.
looking at you honestly.
Well, we need people. Like, we need other people that can be honest with us. We need people that we can tell them that we're struggling and not feel ashamed by it, and they won't overreact or anything. And hopefully, it doesn't matter if that's in our church or outside of our church. Like, we just need that person, or a couple of people. And the other question that I would ask is, like, how do you guys think we lean into the means of grace more without leaning into them in like a legalistic way? Because I think it's really easy to say, all right, I'm dry. I got to lean into it more. I'm not, but then we might begin to think, well, I'm reading every day. I'm picking up the Bible every day, and it's not working, or this or that. Like, how do we do it without getting legalistic, do you think? I have the advantage of having thought about the answer because I thought about the question. So
go ahead, Elder Dave.
That's just,
we'll follow up.
I think one of the most important things that I had to learn when I was in the midst of a season like this was that these means of grace that God has given us are pathways in which it's like they're means of love. That's what they are. Like, when I open up the Word, I'm not merely opening it up to learn something intellectually. I'm opening up the Word, and the God of heaven, who's also my Father, who also dwells in me, who also loves me, has written and recorded and preserved this Word for me to hear. And so when I read it, I'm not merely reading it in terms of, what does this teach me? I'm mainly reading it in terms of, like, what's the promise that I need today? What's the good word, the good encouragement that I need so that so that I know that God loves me today. And like, I'm reading it as a means of like giving me fuel for worship. I want to read it so then in the midst of that paragraph or whatever, that chapter, whatever I read it so that way I think, what in here can I come away from this text saying, my God is good because of this, Like, in almost every verse, in almost every paragraph, there's a reason to worship God out of it. Yeah. And if I think this is a very John Piper type thing to say, but if we're like reading with an eye towards worship, I think that helps me keep it from being stale and dry.
Yeah. Well, I was like, I think that's huge to get yourself, because like you're saying, as far as just doing the daily routine of like, hey, I need to dive in more and read more. Then it can purely get into like, I'm putting in my time to study. Yeah. And like, I'm putting in my time to, trying to force as far as learning, and head knowledge and all that, but not actually just taking the time and relaxing and reading the word as if it is active and speaking to you for your day that day.
Yeah.
And like, what do you need? What is God? What is a new way that God is trying to reveal himself to you that day? Because the word, no matter what you're reading, it is living and active, and it is able to speak. And it is worthy of worship. Something, some aspect new every single day.
Yep.
And so I think that's part of it, and that's hard, obviously, because like when you are, getting up early in the morning and you've had a rough day and you're just doing your routine of like, all right, I'm going to open up scripture and get my, thing in before I start my whole routine. That can be hard to truly get into that mindset. But that's why I think truly having an active prayer life prior to stepping into study of the word is key. If you're in that type of mentality, to truly like prepare your heart a little bit, so that you're not just walking into it as like a purely, I'm in a study mode of, I got to cram in my, my whatever God has me reading that day. Does that make sense?
Well, it's like anything else. Like, you sit there and say, man, like if I've never worked out before or whatever, if I've never had the mindset of like I think the one that you hit on was, and Andrew, you did too, was the mindset of worship, and it's supposed to drive you to something else bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
One of the things, like I was going through tough time, just stress at work and whatnot. I was in my old place, and I would go take a walk every day. There's a park close by, and I'd take a walk and I'd listen on the way. I'd listen to music or a little sermon jam or something like that, or read like a ballet vision and just go read and think about it while I walked.
Yeah.
So sitting there and thinking through, like, okay, like if I'm going to sit there and consider the birds of the air, I'm walking through a park where there is birds everywhere. There's turkeys or wildlife. And I'm going to sit there and say, man, this is what God sustains. So it's supposed to drive me to something bigger.
Yeah.
And granted, that's a shift and it's not done in a day, but a habitual moment of saying, I'm just going to go and sit and think and let something else drive me, something bigger. It'll help me get there quicker.
I think
because otherwise you can keep focusing inwardly and it won't get you there.
I think there's like, just practically, there's something to be said for like, obviously we should be growing, we should be studying, and we should be going through scripture and like trying to theologically, get more and more depth out of our faith. And if you're doing that, then like it's an aspect of like, okay, you want to get through, say you put a challenge on yourself, like I want to get through a certain number of chapters every single day or whatever that I'm reading. And that's good. But then also building in the time where you are just going to read, you're not going to put a cap on it of like, hey, I'm going to read my 5 chapters every single day, but I'm just going to read this, maybe it's 1 chapter, maybe it's a set of verses, and I'm just going to rest on that. And I'm just going to flesh that out fully. Yeah. And like
that's a big thing.
Give yourself the mentality of like, that's okay to just rest and really,
because your goal is not to accomplish a number of tasks. Your goal is to just come away from it with a heart that's turned to God.
Yeah.
And so if that takes one verse, then you did it.
We don't build in that flexibility.
Yeah.
And that was something I read in a book once. It was from the Art of Manliness podcast. I had the book, I haven't finished it, but he talked about making small, tiny goals about like, I'm just going to read 2 pages a day or something. I'm going to read like one. It wasn't a Christian, but just my sense of, hey, if I go above this, great. But I'm going to build into like a very minimal thing that I can check the box and then go beyond it with joy.
Yeah.
Just so like, 'cause it was like a manageable goal, and as a goal-oriented person, I could check the box. I did a goal, which feels good. But also I went above and beyond the goal, and it doesn't matter how easy the goal is, but it's like a celebrate the little thing and then go a step further if you want to, not because you have to.
Yeah. I think Andrew brought up praying. Like, praying is part of this. I think pray before we read, pray after we read. and like praying to God, remembering that we're doing that as children to our Father, and people around us that can encourage us. And just for some people, like there's a reality that the more isolated we get, the more natural it is for us to get dry and depressed. That is literally just a scientific fact. I'm somebody that really enjoys solitude and stuff, but even I know that it's true, like even about me. And I think like in those moments, like finding ways that the word can get into your head in a different way maybe is helpful. I think the Valley of Vision is really helpful for me in that regard. A book of prayers to like read through. That helps me because
the Psalms.
Reading the Psalms. Valley of Vision, like reading through these prayers that were written so long ago, and they'll be written and they'll have this topic written about and everything, but then they'll have like this prayer that sort of like helps me brainstorm my own prayer and everything. And there's another book that I would recommend that Rachel got for me actually, and it's called Piercing the Heavens, and it's a lot like Valley of Vision. It's the same basic thing. But those are both really helpful for me when I felt like my prayers were really dry and I didn't know what to pray. They kind of helped me learn how to pray, as well as the Psalms. I mean, reading through the Psalms and considering them as prayers definitely changes that as well. But
yeah.
And I think just don't get discouraged. Like if you're in that place, you don't have to be discouraged. Every Christian in the world has gone through it. And something that John Piper said about, and I think this is in Desiring God. He talks about how in worship, sometimes like as we're singing, we really feel the power, the presence of Christ as we're singing in church together. But sometimes even if we love the song and the song's perfect, it still we don't see that. What he said is if we're leaving a worship service and we're wishing that we would have experienced more of Christ, some of that is a very good desire, a very God glorifying desire, where we're saying like, God, I want more of you. And so if we're in a spiritually dry place, but our heart is like upset that we're dry, if our heart is sitting there saying, I don't want to be dry, like, God, I don't want to be dry. I want to be filled. I want to be joyful and everything. Then you're still glorifying God there. If you're being faithful and obedient where you are, even if it feels dry, you're glorifying God. And I think it's a good thing. Like when you're there, pray for joy. Just pray for it every day, right? Pray for joy and happiness, and like, that's okay to pray for. That's a good thing to pray for. Pray for pray. The verse that I pray often now is I pray that God, you would show me that the joy of the Lord is my strength. Like that. I mean, think about that. The joy of the Lord is their strength. That's a verse in the Bible. I think it's a powerful idea, but that's something to pray for. But
yeah, and I think being open to, like I said, I think one of the things is being in community and not isolating further, which we want to do. Because then there can be a case where there is something in your life that is hindering growth. And that's one of the prayers too, that going through Psalm 139, like, search me and know me. Be anything grievous in me and root it out. Right? The First Peter talks about like your prayers may be hindered if you are not living in a good way with your wife, or other verses like that. And being real, that's why being in the Word, and being in community, and not stepping away from the common graces are so important and vital. Yeah, because that'll put you further down the rabbit hole even faster.
Yeah.
Just those things too.
Yeah. Well, I think we got to wrap up this episode here. By the way, this was episode 43. Three Brothers Talking. I don't know if we said that at the
I didn't
beginning.
know the number, so I just decided to just say whatever.
That's because
I was gonna get the Roman numeral out, but I'm like, whatever.
That's because you're not looking at the prep sheet, man.
Yeah.
I don't prep.
But episode 43 in the books. I've got a recommendation, and you guys, if you want to, I can just throw mine out now, or I can save it for next time. All right,
go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Go for it.
Fit for a King has a new album out. Fit for a King is a very heavy, very loud band, but they are
Christians can't listen to that kind of music. Dude.
They are very good. And so I would recommend that the next time you go to the gym. And if loud music is your thing, I think you'll like it. So
I came across, speaking of heavy metal music, my first heavy metal concert at the King's Place was Mortification. I listened to them the other day for the first time ever.
I love that you call it loud music versus the actual, heavy music. Because loud is all dictated by how much volume you put
you can
out.
turn loud down.
I think there's something
that's not how that works.
There's something objectively loud about it, but heavy music. It is. I think it would be called metal. Post-metal, metalcore. I don't know.
Yeah.
Post-millennial metal.
Like
but it's good. Yeah, it's good. I'm a fan of it. I think Jeremy's listened to it too already.
I have not yet. It's on my list. I didn't have time today.
Gotcha.
I had meetings all day.
Well, it's very good in the gym. So there you go. I recommend it. Now nobody will listen to a music recommendation that I give again. So
I know.
That's fine.
David, you're so hardcore.
All right. Well, I think we've done it. So
we did. We did.
Episode 43. Share the episode if you want to, and if you don't want to, then share it anyway. Maybe, I don't know. Do your thing. But this time, or I forgot how to close an episode for a second.
We basically just closed.
You become elder and you forget all your bearings.
We just
Hey, Andrew, let me ask. Andrew, how was this episode?
I think it's pretty good.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. Now we can just end it, David.
All right,
that's how it works.
Then we're done, and episode 44 will be next.